understands what's actually happening at our border, and I'd like to yield to my friend from Virginia.
Thank you to the gentleman from Texas. We don't have a finer patriot and a more courageous warrior for freedom in the Congress, and I appreciate your leadership on this and so many issues, and I appreciate you leading this discussion here on the floor tonight. Never in the history of the country has our own president done more to intentionally harm the country than this president has done in his first year in Congress. Never in the history of the country has our own president done more to harm the United States than this president has done willfully, intentionally, than what he's done with the border in his first year. We're averaging 7,000 illegals across the border a day right now. The administration's admitting that. They're allowing 7,000 illegals across the border a day. I had a constituent say to me on the phone just 2 days ago, nothing this administration is doing makes sense unless they hate the country. Nothing that this administration is doing makes sense unless they hate the country. Whether you're talking about the crime crisis, the inflation crisis, our diminished standing on the national stage, the spending crisis, the energy crisis, what we're doing to American energy and making us depend on foreign nations who hate us. But I think at the top of that list is what we're doing at the border. When I ran for the first time 2 years ago, I identified the greatest threats to the country, I believe, our education system, indoctrination of our kids, K-12 and college campuses, our runaway radical spending that's bankrupting our future, and then our immigration and border situation. And nothing has changed my mind to that effect in my first year here. I've been to the border 4 times. I'm well aware that Virginia's 5th District is not geographically, physically located at the border. But we just had an MS-13 gang member convicted of murder in my hometown of Lynchburg, Virginia, who illegally came across the border. This president's policies are making every town a border town, every state a border state. Everything and everyone that comes across that border comes under the control of the Mexican crime cartels. And it's threatening the security of our nation. It's an economic security issue, it's a health security issue, and it's certainly a national security issue. And the projections that I'm seeing with the ending of Title 42, the egregious attempt to end Title 42, projections I'm seeing is going to take it from 7,000 a day to 18,000 a day. 7,000 a day to 18,000 a day, perhaps even tripling what's already happened. We had 2 million illegal crossings a year ago. Extrapolate that out for 4 years. Are we going to allow this president to have 8 million come across at the current pace? My most recent trip to the border that my friend from Texas was mentioning was to Del Rio, Texas. He led a trip to Del Rio, Texas. You might remember that's where we had Bidentown just a few weeks ago with 20,000 Haitian migrants assembled under the bridge there in Bidentown, Del Rio, Texas. Well, while we don't have that still today, because they distributed those migrants, those illegals, into the interior of the country, which they're doing all the time, by the way, flying and busing illegal aliens in the dark of night, wherever they want to go throughout the country, with no even requirement of a court date to appear. It's a pinky promise that we'll get back with you in the future and give you a date to appear. So while we don't have 20,000 in Bidentown under the bridge right now in Del Rio, Texas, right through that corridor, Border Patrol and the ranchers and the sheriffs that were there told us it's 1,000 a day through there. So every 3 weeks, you've got a repeat of what we saw with Bidentown just a few weeks ago in Del Rio, Texas. Does this administration care? Every resource they have committed or directed to that border has been to facilitate, to willfully, purposely facilitate more illegals crossing into our country and to hide it from the American people. To hide it from the American people. There's been no effort by this administration in this president's first year, to stem it, to stop it. Instead, they try to facilitate it, hide it from the American people, and now they want to make it worse, 2 or 3 times worse, with what they're doing with Title 42. So with that, I yield to the gentleman from Texas or the gentleman from Pennsylvania.